Want to rise above what holds you back? These are the stories of those fighting that battle. It might also be the story of you. I'm Dan Waldschmidt, author of Edgy Conversations and strategist of billion-dollar companies all over the world. This is Mark Menard, author of The Story of You, the guy who knows a thing or two about never giving up. You're listening to Elevating Beyond. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Elevating Beyond with a two-word mission statement: change lives. And we're getting ready for an amazing show. We've been talking about this. We did a couple promos for it. But I have from Breaking Bad, the one and only, the Emmy award-winning series, RJ Mitte, and director, actually, this is awesome, Leonard, who he's well known for the movie The Lawn Mower Man and so much more. He's actually getting ready to join us too, as we have this great conversation about the new movie that they're making, Triumph, which also stars, I had a chance to watch the, whatever the heck it's freaking called. They sent me the awesome thing to check it out before it actually premieres. And it also has Oscar winner Terrence Howard in it. And he's the coach. It's phenomenal. We're going to share all this. So stay tuned, everyone. Hey, yeah, what's up, everyone? So we are back on here. And I had the intro on before, Brett, just so you know. And we're just waiting for a second here for RJ to join us. And again, I'm sitting here right now with the director of Triumph, Leonard. And we have been talking about a lot. I mean, a lot that Brett has going on, including is it called VRX or?
Yeah, well, it's about virtual experience. I call it VX, which is just, there's the term virtual reality, which, I popularized in my film, The Lawn Mower Man, almost 30 years ago. That term wasn't out there before that film really popularized it everywhere. And now, I'm involved with actually creating virtual experience for many different modalities, including health and wellness, which is where, really cool. A lot of the good that can happen with virtual reality is really happening. And it's a very, very exciting time for that.
Yeah, it's from us talking before too, when I remember seeing Lawn Mower Man back in the day too, that really did introduce virtual reality to the mainstream.
Yes.
And that was based off Stephen King, right?
It was a Stephen King short story, but the Stephen King short story had nothing to do with virtual reality. It was a 7-page short story that the producers came to me and said, look, we have this 7-page short story by Stephen King. Obviously, they want to make a Stephen King-based movie because he's one of the most commercial authors in the history of humankind.
First book I ever read was Pet Cemetery when I was 18.
I mean, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I mean, he's an amazing, he's the Charles Dickens of our era. And so I said, of course I'm interested. So I read the story, and it was basically a 7-page story about a supernatural being that telekinetically controls a lawnmower and mows down an abusive father. And so I'm like,
wow,
well,
so you
guys, I could put this story within the context of a larger film, but I got this thing that I just experienced called virtual reality. And I really want to make a movie about that. This is me as, a younger filmmaker. And they were like, what the hell is that? So I literally had to make this like 20-minute educational tape where I'm like, what virtual reality is and showing all this stuff. And, the producers, didn't really understand it at all, but to their credit, they said, wow, I think this kid has some ideas that are good. And they backed me in making the movie.
That's cool.
And so,
and it
later,
grossed a huge more amount than you guys, from what I just was checking the bio out from what was in it and what it blew up to.
It was the #1 independent film of that year, 1992. And it really launched my career. It was my second feature film. My first is a zombie movie called The Dead Pit, which there's still people out there that that's their biggest fan. They're the biggest fans of that movie for me because, of course, they're zombie fans.
That's awesome.
And, and I made that as an homage to the whole zombie genre.
Right.
George A. Romero.
I did
get to meet at one point,
that's cool.
Sweetest man imaginable who created the zombie genre. Anyway,
I think RJ just entered, so I'll pop him in real quick here. If I didn't,
got a very big premiere night last night, and it was a big night for all of us. So.
No worries. RJ, we just brought you in. I think if I didn't screw this up, I can see you on the top there.
Probably has to unmute himself.
There we go.
How's it going?
How are you doing, RJ?
I'm good. Long week.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I love it. Don't worry. I was telling Brett, I just do my show conversation style and everything. So pop it in, we're making it work. And it's first of all to both of you. And we've already done the intro and stuff, but congrats. Cause today is the official release day of Triumph, right?
That is true. Yes. And in theaters across America right today. So
Cinemarks. We're in over 200 Cinemarks nationwide, and it's so awesome.
Yeah, they're really supporting the film. We had this amazing, charity premiere last night that RJ put together with his team here in Brownsville, which was amazing. It was one of the most incredible experiences for me because they brought in, hundreds of disabled children to watch the film, and I couldn't have been more of a incredible experience. You got some static going on there, I think. You got it.
We've only done 200 plus episodes, and it's always an adventure every time. But RJ, I was telling Brett, somehow we have 4 million listeners. It's not because of me. They're like, who is this random dude that just screws up and doesn't know what he's doing? It's because of the awesome guests I bring on. But I also, we were talking a lot pre-show too, Brett. I mean, getting into blockchain and VRX and all kinds of stuff there, but then swinging back to Triumph and what's going on, because I've had a company for 14 years, Dreamshine, for individuals with developmental disabilities. And that's really when Kate wrote me about this too, which like caught my attention. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want to check this movie out. I watched the pre-screening of it, and I loved it. It's great. And I loved that you're in it. And I know it's a grind behind the scenes with today being release day. I know you guys have been working your butts off. People have no idea how exhausting it is, especially the marketing part. So RJ, besides being tired and
Mark, still got static going on. I think your cable is still maybe a little. I just want to make sure you have a good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can hear the static.
That's why I have the director here.
Oh, he'll direct you to death. That's for sure.
That was going to be one of my questions right there. We answered.
I mean, in RJ's case, literally with the wrestling scenes, it came close because he did all of his own wrestling on this film. And,
that's cool.
And it was very intense. As you saw the film, it did some very intense wrestling. And to say that he was slammed a few times would be a very deep understatement.
Right. Yeah, no, for real. Wow, you did all that.
Yes. No, yeah, you can't, with wrestling, it's hard to use a stunt double because it's so tight, close quarter, sport that you need to have the emotion on the faces. And so it was, impossible really to use. And RJ refused to have a stunt double, by the way. He said, no, I'm doing this myself no matter what. So we definitely put him through the paces. That's for sure.
So when you were getting slammed around and stuff, RJ, were there times where it was like, all right, you got crushed, you feel like you can barely breathe, and then Brett's like, nope, we have to do another take on that?
There's a moment where I'm getting slammed and my bell gets rung, and I'm sitting there, and it's like, this is probably the 9th time of doing the slam. And they're like, it's great. But we need like one more. It didn't look intense enough. I'm just like,
yeah, it's the classic. That was great. One more time.
come on.
It came out really well though, and I love too, I'm not giving away anything in the actual movie, but in the credits where it showed you and the real guy who the true story is based on together, I thought that was awesome. Because
Michael Coffey, who wrote the screenplay, and this is based upon his experiences in high school and just having cerebral palsy and wanting to be included in all the things, especially sports. I mean, Michael is an athlete himself, and he's in incredible shape. And
right.
I'd want him in an alley fight. Let's put it that way. and he's his tenacity in getting this film made really inspired all of us.
That's cool.
Both RJ and I to get this film made, because there was a lot of challenges. Any independent film has a lot of challenges, as you're probably aware.
Right.
So this took a number of years to get done, and we all stuck to it, following Michael Coffey's lead, and now here we are with it opening in theaters wide, which is an amazing experience. I saw it for the first time on the big screen myself.
That's cool.
And it was, for me, cinema is a big screen experience. And
right. Back in the theaters, huh?
Incredible to see it with, big sound and on a great screen. And the emotion is so much great. So anybody who wants to go see the movie, go see it on the big screen, please.
Get back in the theaters.
I know a lot of people are going to see it. I know a lot of people are going to see it in other ways, and that's great, because it definitely will play that way. But it's such a great experience to see it on the big screen.
Yeah. I went to the movies just the week before last with my daughters for the first time in so long, and it was pretty packed. And it was great to see people. They had the seats separated based on the state, and they had the mask and everything, but it was just felt good you can't beat that in the theater experience.
I agree.
Special thing.
Yeah, that's why I started making movies. I mean, it was always a big screen experience for me when I was a kid, and there wasn't really another way to watch a movie except if it came on network television, like The Wizard of Oz when I was, young. But just the big screen experience. I'll never forget. I saw, Mary Poppins was the first big screen movie I ever saw, and basically that was it. I was hooked.
That inspired you to write Lawn Mower, or not write Lawn Mower Man, make Lawn Mower Man.
More 2001: A Space Odyssey inspired me to write Lawn Mower Man, but
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And RJ, obviously, and I was looking at your backstory too from your CP, because there was a scene in the movie where you were talking, and I don't know if in his book the same thing happened too, but you were saying you, as the actor and the character in the movie, that had your umbilical cord wrapped around your neck. And then I saw in real life, that's your story. And what's crazy is I had that same thing happen, except I was diagnosed with ADHD and all the other A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the other letters of the alphabet, told I wasn't going to be. But it wasn't the same as CP, but I remember just thinking, I used to think I was like stupid growing up, and it was think what's wrong with me, and all those other kids are going to be just born successful. And I'm not even comparing it, because from what I've seen from CP and our different clients we have, it's a lot more brave. You've been through a lot more, but that perseverance that, I'm grateful for, that it built in me, for always like kind of having that, I'm not stupid. And I had to work 10 times harder than everyone, even just to get through a lot of things in school. And I thought that was really cool, that the character that you were in actually, and you went through that same thing. So can you just explain that, with being born and having that with your umbilical cord around your neck? Obviously you don't have the memory of that, but kind of going through that and getting to where you are now?
I mean, like you said, it's a journey. And, the biggest thing about this film is that so many people like yourself can relate to that. So many people around this world have challenges or have had those mishaps when being born. I find there's a very big... our medical field has a lot of issues, and especially with prenatal and neonatal care. Right. And a lot of people just can't get access to that. And, you know, growing up, yes, I have cerebral palsy. Yes, I've had all those things. I mean, I've almost died many times in my life and died many times in my life. Wow. And, you know, the thing is really just being able to utilize those life experiences, utilize that knowledge, because like CP, like ADHD, like many other things that we have, so many times people look at them as a weakness, as like an illness, as something that it's like we have to explore. But I look at it as strength and knowledge and an opportunity to learn so much about oneself, so much about what we are capable of as humans. And I think of all these things as assets. And we just don't, our normality or our society doesn't always look at a weakness or the perception of a weakness as an asset. And I think we need to change that mentality, and really with films like Triumph and many others, that we can focus on showing the abilities through that trial, through these different abilities, through these mentalities of strength and overcoming so many obstacles, that we can show that really it's knowledge, it's power. And no matter what walk of life you are, no matter where you are in your society or what you think you can or can't do, that's up to you. That's a decision you have to make. And I was very lucky that I grew up with a mentality of can't is a decision. When someone says they can't do something, they're deciding not to do something. It may mean that they can't do it in that instant and don't have that ability right now. But if you want to achieve something, and if you want to grow from something, and it's what you want, training, timing, exercise, focusing on that goal, and over time accomplishing it. Because things don't happen overnight.
Heck, what you mean? Yeah. And this is what this show, Elevating Beyond, has always been all about. Is I have people from all over the world, whether they're Olympic athletes, whether they're actors, directors, just everything possible. And it's always totally different background stories, overcoming. But the same core thing there was like working your butt off, perseverance, time, not giving up. And every overnight success takes about 10 to 15 years to become a quote. I mean, like Terrence Howard, who plays the coach in the movie, Oscar award winning. I'm sure, I'm guessing, I haven't worked with him on any set, but I'm sure he works his butt off, and it didn't just come like fall in his lap, like just was in one movie and I won the Oscars.
Actors like that, people like Brad, they've been doing it 40 years, like 50, 60 years. Like Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad has been doing it for 50 years. Yeah. Like you only hear the aftermath of it. You only see the result or the success. You don't always see the 30 years of work or 30 years of failures. Right. And that one succeed is really where it changes, and people are like, oh my God, look, you made it. And it's like, well, I've been making it. I've been grinding that. It's just now you see it in the mass. Exactly.
Yeah. That's literally what the movie's about. I mean, it's right. About, using, the character that RJ plays and himself as a person doesn't accept failure. Seeing that and actually not accepting failure with a good heart and, going forward without getting discouraged is really sort of the core of the narrative here, just like it is for the life of Michael Coffey, who wrote the screenplay, and for me, I didn't know a lot about CP or about cerebral palsy when I got involved with the film at all. And I learned by knowing Michael Coffey and then by knowing RJ and how RJ worked that, all of these things are overcomable. It's like, it was incredibly inspiring for me as a person who doesn't have that challenge to see that wow, it can actually be something that spurs you to even greater heights. You know, that's
right.
It's an amazing thing to learn, you know, this late in life for me. So it was a great experience to work with RJ from that standpoint.
I'm sure you've had your own adversities too, and ups and like the beautiful struggle and like the bios that we see, they don't show the battle scars that take place and literally like the blood, sweat, and tears that go. I mean, look at today, your movie's releasing, but the people haven't seen the years and years. Like by the time it releases, of course you're excited about it, but you're like, oh my God, wait, what? Like I forgot about that because we've been working on it for so long, you know?
And this film had some very unique challenges, which again, the independent film world is full of these stories. But, you know, this film was originally shot almost 6 years ago, you know, a good portion of it. And there was a big delay because of business issues that happened around the financing and people that were involved initially. And we had to, you know, to keep the vision of this, to keep the focus of it, all of us involved, from Michael Coffey, who wrote the screenplay, to RJ, to myself, to all the producers, Michael Clofine, who, you know, was one of the main original financiers on this film, you know, to stay involved, to get it, you know, to get it legally clean, to be able to do the film. Just that was an immense battle that took years of time. And we had to keep the faith basically during that time. And now we're seeing the rewards of that. But like I say, most people don't see what happens, you know, but behind those scenes, especially with that kind of stuff. You know, it's very sort of like hidden and people don't usually talk about it much in the film business. But the film business is one of the harder businesses there are.
Oh God,
yeah.
Anything with a public, and that's why I like to talk. The reason why I like to be real and have authentic like conversations is because truly it gives people hope, because they think like, oh yeah, okay, maybe RJ grew up with CP, but you know, he must just never get nervous and never had any fears or worries and just got on set and naturally had all these abilities. And dude, like what are some techniques that you have when you're going on something like Breaking Bad and you're like, okay, I'm with these people that have been acting for 40 plus years and stuff. Are you just like, I'm not nervous at all?
It's just like, you know, you just have to do it. I mean, I know that's a weird thing to think about, is like, I grew up always in the fire. So, always being grabbed by the collar and the belt and thrown into the fire one way or another. So like really for me, I'm one of those people that, when I'm nervous, that means I'm doing something right. When I'm fearful, that means I need to dive into the fear more.
Yes.
You know, that's something that when you're stepping outside the realm of comfort and you're challenging your own mentalities and your own strengths, that's really what life is about. It's not just about being stagnant or plateauing or having stability, which is nice. Everyone loves stability.
But it's mediocrity. It leads to mediocrity.
You never get there. You never get there. And if anyone thinks they get there, especially in artistry and creative endeavors, you die as an artist. You know, if you're not being spurred to go to the next level and evolve, then, you know, you're actually, like RJ said, static. And static is, you know, Bob Dylan said it best: those who are not busy being born are busy dying.
Right.
You know? And that's really the sentiment that happens for me. I just have to go back to that every time, because sometimes the challenges, you know, are very deep in this business that we're in. And you just have to go, but you know what? This is a blessing to be able to even be having these challenges.
You have to remind yourself too. And people, you said it good, RJ, like everyone feels fear, because that's what I want everyone listening to understand. It doesn't go away, but taking action while you're feeling afraid is where courage is found. I used to think like, I shouldn't be, I dropped speech class 3 times in college. Like I shouldn't be having a podcast with all these people, but I learned that you do it afraid. And then like it gradually builds that confidence muscle.
Well, and people want to see you be afraid. Like, no, I mean, like it's one of those things that people want. People don't want to just see the overconfident. Like maybe back in the day when media was perfect, right? When everything had that air of gloss and perfection. Yeah. Now we live in a society where everyone has media and everyone wants to see the insecurities and the flaws and the growth. They want to see the A to B to C to D all the way to Z. And now we have the ability and we have a community that doesn't just want to see the perfect person. That just wants to see the insecurities, wants to see the flaws, and wants to see and be on a journey with you to grow. To be like, all right, this is where the podcast started. And we were maybe a little nervous, right? Like it's the confidence on how you talk and how you present yourself to your environment, to now this one day where you're just like rattling off and you're doing it. And it's just like everything seems perfect and seamless, but you had that journey and the people want that journey.
Right. Yeah. My first episode was literally, I was sitting in my car because with my company Dreamshine for individuals with developmental disabilities, they were like, "You're going to start a podcast?" Like that's another thing. If you're not being called crazy, then you're not doing enough either. You're dying there too. Like you should have people calling you crazy. That means you're doing something. And I was just in my car, like with my headphones, and I kind of shared my own story for the first time. And I was terrified, but it just, the audio sounded like crap. Well, we're still having issues even now, years later. But people caught on. No one mentioned that. And they were listening. And the guests that continue to come on in these real life conversations are what it's all about. And that's why this movie, like Triumph, it's perfect timing to have an inspirational movie that is, I love it's based on a true story. And then also you're starring in it, playing something that you've lived through. You know, his story is different, but you've lived through being born with CP. And I'm sure that you guys how did you guys connect? Have you both worked together on other projects or?
No, we met on the in Nashville when we first started doing the film. But one of the reasons I signed on to do the film is because RJ was attached to the film before I was. Nice. And when I saw he was attached to play the lead, that's when I said yes, because I was such a fan of his from all the work he's done before. Of course, Breaking Bad had just happened, so I couldn't be more excited. That's how that happened.
That's cool. And you spent a lot of how old were you when you started Breaking Bad? Like, was it 14?
When I started auditioning for Breaking Bad, I was around 13 years old.
Wow.
And I started Breaking Bad 13 turning 14, and I finished Breaking Bad 20 turning 21.
Dude.
You grew up on Breaking Bad.
That's crazy. What is that like? So how old are you now, RJ?
I'm 28.
28. Man. So like, what is that like totally growing up, like your teenage years and stuff on that set? And then you leave it. Do you have that false, you know what I mean? Like you see some people that totally go through this. We all go through craziness anyway, but
it's hard, you know, when you worked on a project for so long and it's really been the majority of your life, and it's kind of all you know and all you do. It's hard to leave it. But I think at the time, everyone was really excited to be able to have an ending and to be able to have the right ending and to carry a story from conception to fruition is so important, that you make all those marks and you raise those heights, like just being able to have a rock solid beginning, a middle, and an end for a TV show.
Right.
Unheard of.
I think Breaking Bad has the best ending of a series in history. That's how I feel. When I was watching that,
I agree.
I was literally like, this feels like the most satisfying feature film that took 7 years to watch. It was incredible.
And you know what's amazing is we, in that time, that period of history is actually in the Smithsonian as the golden age of television.
Right. I agree.
We had Breaking Bad, we had Mad Men, we had Walking Dead, and they were mostly on AMC. But we had so many other shows on other networks that were just the pinnacle. Game of Thrones started in that beginning. Just the quality of content that we were able to focus on from 2006 to 2012. It was just next level content and next level mentality. And we didn't have social media. We didn't have the media outlets. We didn't have the streaming and stuff. So it was a very different world. And it was just such a unique experience to be able to go into an industry at a very young age and be part of such a pinnacle shift in our entertainment industry that just altered everything. And it's just so special and so unique.
And we're still in that alteration right now. We're still
absolutely.
That, and then with COVID hitting, the inflection point of that has changed everything, which is why it's such an amazing thing that Triumph is in theaters for only. I love it. It's only in theaters for the next 45 days. That is like almost a more rare thing these days in the entertainment business than almost anything. And so I could not be more excited by that because it's such serendipity. You talked about timing. Well, if we had finished this movie originally in the time frame that we were doing it, with some of the original cast members that were being considered at that time, this would have been a completely different experience. And now the timing is absolutely perfect for this film because also everyone needs a story that is actually inspirational, that comes from true life, that has that authenticity and is also inspirational. And RJ being connected to that in his own story, is just all the confluence of things coming together right now as this is able to go in theaters, right as people are going back to the theaters for the first time in over a year. Right. It's astonishing.
It's cool. And it's great now when you can look back on it, but when you're going through it, you're like, oh my God, what's
over it?
Yeah. People don't see that, like the failure or there's so many times I throw in the towel. I'm like, I'm done. I freaking quit. But
the bureaucracy, man, the bureaucracy's over there.
Oh my God. The bureaucracy. Yeah. We don't even want to get into that. It's just,
I'm going to tell you guys, it's not even just a move. Like even my company, like with developmental disabilities and an entrepreneur, the bureaucracy, I had to battle to be like one of the first ones that wasn't owned just by the government. And I literally, there's the government that's supposed to be helping. I had a flip phone. I was getting calls telling me not to open Dreamshine. I was this 26-year-old kid sending out like pamphlets in the physical mail. I'm like, what? How do they even, does this happen in real life? Like,
I know.
It was crazy. But that, fueled me to be like, whoa, like if they're like intimidated by this and they've been doing it this way for this many years, that just shows me I'm on the right track.
Exactly.
To keep pushing forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Last night we had, everyone from the film came together for the first time in a while. And, one of the people that played the young man who played RJ in the beginning of the film when he's very young was John Clofine, Michael Clofine's son, one of the executive producers. And I didn't recognize John because he'd grown up into this giant, tall young man. And I'm like, who are you? And he's like, I'm John. I was the kid in the beginning of the movie. So that's how long this took, to actually create it. It was one of the, and he did a great job doing his own wrestling as well, as everyone did that was in this film. There, you can't fake wrestling. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. The other guy, please tell me his name. He was in the Teen Wolf and stuff and played he was like your friend.
Colton Haynes.
Yeah.
Colton Haynes. Yeah. That was cool. So in the real story, did they really have that relationship, or was part of that change a little bit for the movie? Or
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
No, yeah, I think Michael Coffey, he took experiences and people from his high school experience and mashed them together into, a semi-fictional expression of what he experienced. At the core, what he experienced is the truth of the movie, but things were changed dramatically. And for me, so many screenwriters have gotten the chance to sort of unearth their high school fantasies, their high school, experiences and make them turn out better in their screenplay, right? Why not someone who has, cerebral palsy, who has got that, this is his version of that kind of, high school, if you think about it, the ultimate person that did that was John Hughes. Right. And so this is essentially a John Hughes-like movie, except with these themes. And I actually shot the film in the style of a John Hughes movie because it takes place in the 80s when those films were happening. And I grew up with those films. And so that was one of the really fun aspects, is to kind of go back in time. In a way, this film is a throwback to those kinds of movies. And again, from a timing standpoint, I think that's exactly the kind of movie people want to see right now. Something that has, that inspirational Hollywood story that, it doesn't necessarily mean a quote unquote happy, stupid ending, because it doesn't. The film doesn't go there, but it's about being included, about going through the experience. And Michael, definitely his life, that the person who wrote this, he did absolutely experience that in his life.
The big thing about this film that really drew me to this film is that as we were talking about the life story of Mike, right? And these opportunities that he wanted, during the 80s, in the real life 80s, disability was viewed very differently. A lot of people with disabilities just were died, euthanized, left to the wayside, really. There's many organizations that were there that did support, but the mentality and the knowledge and just the understanding of disability wasn't there. So all of Mike's life experiences that went into this film, from what was real in real life to what we had to kind of create for the movie, this was his dream. This was his what he saw himself and his future as a kid, as a young man, and as a wrestler for himself. But society didn't give him that opportunity. Society wasn't at that knowledge level yet to be able to go, okay, here, you can fight for your dream. You may have a disability, but you can. In real life, that didn't happen. And so just think about the society that we live in now, where we do support people's goals and dreams, no matter who they are, no matter the walk of life they are, no matter how physical or mental they may seem to be. We support wholeheartedly. We strive for that. And the world then was very different than now. So to be able to create someone's dream, someone's goal, someone's future, and rewrite history for them, because that's what cinema does, is rewrite history. Yes. And this will live on for many years past us.
That's true.
And as artistry, as reporters and journalists and directors and creators, this is our power, is to change the perspective, change the understanding, and rewrite a better future.
So true, RJ. That's a beautiful way to put it. When I saw Michael Coffey's face last night as he was watching this film, and there were tears in his eyes, and
I would be crying.
And it was his wish fulfillment. It was his dream. The thing he couldn't experience in his life, he experienced by making a film that's now going to be seen by millions and millions of people. And then all these other disabled children that came to the screening last night, I saw the same look in all of their eyes. They were crying through the movie. They were clapping with,
that's so cool.
I've never experienced anything like that with a film that I've made.
That's your reward right there.
Films, and I've been associated with science fiction and all kinds of virtual reality. This is a whole other level of human story that, as RJ said, that's our great power, the great power of cinema. And the people that make cinema, we have to take responsibility for that. And the fact that this film does do that is something I'm most proud of almost any film I've ever made.
That's what pushes you guys through, anyone through anything, is those times where you do want to give up. And you're dealing with the bureaucracy and all that, is you remember that, you're like, but this isn't just about me. This is about what we're putting out there and all the people that it's going to reach. And him, sharing his story, how cool is that he wrote it, and how many years later it got, how many times, imagine how many rejections he went through. And,
oh yeah. And even during the making of this movie and all the legal things that happened he had to maintain his faith through things that, no one wants to go through as a filmmaker. Let me tell you, that's for sure. And, people think that filmmaking, if you're making films, oh man, you must have the life, it's a glamorous life. There is nothing glamorous about making movies. It's basically hard ass work, and
it's not just red carpets every day and Cavalier. And
you get literally a few moments.
I know.
You experienced last night, a few moments of that feeling from years of the struggle, essentially, but you know what? We live for that struggle. We actually live in that process. And so you have to find joy in the process. The end experience is for everyone else. That's what we made it for. We made it so that everyone else could have that end experience, that dream coming true, that inspiration. For us, even the struggle is part of the inspiration, and now at the end, when you're able to tell the story of that struggle, that becomes, again, as RJ says, history is rewritten again.
That's right.
We're always creating ourselves with each moment, and that, even if you're creating a movie, that moment gets frozen in time and lives forever as that film. But what our, evolution as individuals who made the film, that continues to go.
Right, in it for life. And it's a lifelong journey to always be developing. And RJ, for you too, what was some of your biggest struggles that you've had in getting into this? Because I was even listening to one of your other interviews before this. I was checking some stuff out on YouTube, and you were talking about how sometimes, like, putting your thoughts together, you may have a thought, but there could sometimes be like a 5-second delay as to like what you want to say and how you want to say it out there. Like, what's been one of your bigger challenges with that? Because I couldn't even imagine freaking remembering scripts a lot. I've done speaking events and I had to just memorize a poem for one of them. I'm like, man, this took me like four days. I'm like, how do actors do that? And then on top of it,
it takes 4 days. You get ready for it. You prepare. Life is all about when readiness meets opportunity, and you can be ready but never get the opportunity, and you can get the opportunity but never be ready. And so the trick is just always be ready for everything.
Yeah, everything. Exactly.
Prepare for the worst, expect the best.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, my CP though, I do. I have a 3-second delay with everything I do. So literally everything I have and everything I'm telling you right now, I've already thought 3 seconds before it came out of my mouth.
Wow.
I wanted to say something about this. This is something I haven't even talked to RJ about, but when I first met him and we were directing the very first scene, I understood there was something different about how he processed information.
Mm.
And for me as a director, it was incredibly inspirational because he was in the moment in a way that you try to get actors to be as a director, because often actors will overthink things and and then you have to kind of pull that back and just allow them to be, right? Mm. RJ as an actor is one of the most instinctual, rawly emotional actors I've ever experienced. And that was an incredible, sort of revelation to me as I started working with him and realizing that aspect of both his challenge was also kind of one of his superpowers, which we talk about in the film. We use that terminology.
I love it.
And as an actor, I really believe that is one of his superpowers. And it was, as a director, it was super refreshing to have an actor that was so in the moment. And so the emotion comes from that moment, not from overthinking it, and that's what every actor tries to do with all their training and to get back into that moment. And RJ has that in a way that's very, very unique.
And that's like your life. Go ahead, RJ.
No, I just saying thanks.
It's true, though. It's really true. I've talked about it with other people. I'm glad I got to talk about it with you in this moment, because I'm like, there's it's interesting. There's a Russian director, Anton Tarkovsky, who was a very famous, director. And the way he worked with actors, he wouldn't give them scripts. He would say, why would I want to give an actor a script? They'd know what was going to happen, and then they wouldn't be real. Right now, that's going to an extreme, right? That's something you can't get away with in the Hollywood filmmaking environment. That's for sure. But, when I remember RJ came, so tell me what he came up to me and said, tell me what this scene is. Tell me how you feel. And it was just absolutely honest, and that you can't make someone, you can't train someone to have that honesty. And so I think throughout RJ's career, he's going to be able to create that honesty in every role he has. And it may be because of some of his unique challenges that is there, because he's taken those challenges and made them into a power.
Superpower. Yeah. Transforming that adversity into a superpower.
Exactly.
Which is what triumph, that really is what it is at its core, is like, adversity strikes us all in so many different ways, but how you play it and just persevering through things, it's incredible to see. I love it. Yeah. It's good stuff. So
goal.
No, I did. It was great. It was awesome. The pre-screening, I got it late at night and I was like, all right, I'm going to watch a little bit of this. Then I'll have to finish the rest tomorrow. And I couldn't stop. I watched the whole thing.
That's great, man.
I don't even want to give anything away, but it was well done. I like the way you put it together. The way that it ended too was cool, because again, I won't say it, but it was, I like the realism and all that.
Yeah.
It was like,
exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense.
We didn't want to make something that was not real. Even though there's wish fulfillment, there's dream fulfillment in this, it's still a reality at the core of it, but Hollywood kind of takes reality and pumps it up, that to me, this still is a movie that does that. I love movies having that power. I also love very, very realistic, gritty films that are, we're in a moment where that's what the critics love in filmmaking right now. And there's a reason for it, American neorealism, all of that. Films like exactly Nomadland, which is incredibly realistic. I mean, it's so realistic that you want to slit your wrist by the end of it. I cried many times, but for me, there's also another kind of Hollywood movie that can, uplift at the same and entertain at the same time, giving that reality. And that's sort of the balance that we were going for here. So the audience can have that experience.
No, you nailed it. And something else that was making me think too, with having the director and the actor on here too, because so when you're doing it at the point of view as a director, you're always kind of working towards each individual personality. It takes, I imagine, practice and leadership. And I'm sure there's some earlier stories where, like you said, RJ would be in the moment, but where you've had someone else that all of a sudden just flipped it to, I'm going to start doing this in a British accent or something. And you're like, wait, that doesn't.
You have no idea. I mean, actors,
but I'm the best ever.
Yeah, actors are beautiful, amazing beings. And I love actors. I actually started on the stage as an actor. That's my deep, dark secret. And, as I'm directing, I also often think of myself as a performer performing being a director. It's sort of interesting. It's because, but the truth is, as RJ said, readiness meeting opportunity. It's like to learn, as a director, you have to be a generalist. You have to be, know a lot of different things, but master of none, and that aspect of being ready for that so that you can just allow actors to be in that moment. That's really what it's about. It's about getting out of the way in a lot of ways. It's right. So, but the actors have to feel okay, we're comfortable to do that because we know he knows what he's doing on all these other levels. You have to experience, you have to have that confidence, and you have to have that feeling of ability that just is palpable, right? But really, I think the best direction is less is more. I mean, if an actor is locking in and is in that moment, you don't want to get in the way. I mean, the worst thing, look, man, I really want you to think about this and do that. I mean, the actors hate you coming in and talking intellectually about their performance because you're taking them out of it,
Right. So, it gets them out of that moment.
And if you, talk to great directors, I've gotten to know many in my career, they always say the same thing. It's like you learn everything of your craft and then you get out of the way for the performers, because those performers are what really is creating that magic on the screen. And the older you get, more experience, the more and more that's the case.
I would say from working with so many different businesses and having them too, that's literally the key to all great leadership. Is what you just said there. The same thing for directing is learning how to get out of your own way and really have that right team in place. You're involved and you're orchestrating a lot of things behind the scenes, but you're not having to micromanage it all for your own ego and stuff a lot of the time, or just because, we're obsessive about what we're working on.
That's the irony of Hollywood. Hollywood is so based around ego, and yet to do good work, you got to get out of your ego. The ego is the biggest enemy there is, and it's a collaborative art form. I mean, this is all the people that worked on this, and without everyone's unique individual energy, it wouldn't be what it is. It's not about actually charismatic leadership. In some ways, charismatic leadership has gotten us to a weird place on our planet. We need to get into more activating the genius of the group mind. And what I've learned about directing and being, a filmmaker is that that's what you're doing, is creating a space so you can activate the genius of the group mind, the collaborative mind that's on the set. And that's, the unity. Again, like you said, getting out of the way.
Well, it's like what you guys keep referring to when it's done right, leadership, directing. It's really about bringing out those superpowers in others. Exactly. and really helping unearth that for them to really shine to that next level, instead of, being the one that I'm the superpower here, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Yeah. That gets old really fast.
And I'm sure you've learned that the hard way before too,
Oh yeah. Failure is the best teacher. That's for sure.
Right. RJ, do you see yourself, like, what the generic question, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Now, do you see yourself ever directing? Do you have like a want for that in the future, or producing movies? I know you're involved in a lot of other different projects with awareness and tons of things going on, but do you see yourself doing another level of that with movies in the future, or maybe even have? I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm a producer on this as well. I mean, like, look, I'm so lucky I was able to bring Michael Clofine onto this project, because if he wasn't a part of this project, the project would be dead. It would have never gotten past the people that it had without Michael. I like to produce. I just don't like to deal with all the money stuff, because it's just everyone grasps at straws.
To say the least.
I like directing. I like producing. I like acting. I do it all. I mean, it's just really how big or how small you're going to go, and I haven't gone big yet. But lately, a lot of my time has been focused in philanthropic work and foundation work. So that's kind of been my goal for the past 5 years now. And really the last 2-3 years been diving into that a lot. Still acting, still producing, still doing other stuff, but really a lot of community outreach and development. So,
but I see RJ as a natural director, just to be honest. I think he's ready. And by the way, RJ, if you ever want a guy to play a small part with a gray bearded biker or something, I'm ready to be directed by you.
Be awesome.
That would be fun.
Well, RJ, like you were saying with a philanthropic, it's interesting too, because the money part of it, like you always have to, you can't only be obsessed with wanting to make money and it's all about the money. But then I'm also working with my team. If we're bankrupt, we can't help anyone either. Actually, I think Terrence Howard is he's in Empire, right? From Curtis Jackson. I'm trying to get Curtis Jackson on. I want to, but I just finished his book and he talks about that a lot, of his different levels of life, from being, in hip hop, and then how he started getting into doing the TV series, and how a lot of the different levels of that then got him to a point where he was able to make enough money. And he said, really what he wants to be remembered for is a philanthropist. And I think that's really cool. Like, people don't think of it when you kind of flip that around and realize it's like having a brownie fundraiser. Like, I'm doing this is my job. I love it. But the funds that I have allow me to be able to help the other level of my purpose too. Because like with Dreamshine, I'm having to be focused on the money and the funds all the time, but it's not just because I'm like trying to squeeze it all and take it. It's like, I want to be able to help my whole team and our clients and everyone at a whole other level too, There's
fundraising and development when it comes to a lot of organizations have a hard time with getting funds and being able to stay stable at the same time. Charitable giving as well, in a way that they're making an impact in the community, not just throwing money into pits, but being able to understand how to utilize the money in an efficient manner where kids and young adults and families are able to harness it and to utilize it to build a foundation for their lives and for their stability. And there's so many people that don't understand where foundations come into effect to really just be able to be and give in perpetuity to a cause and to a growth. And I've been very lucky and blessed to work with hundreds and hundreds of young adults and future leaders, and really just be able to inspire to just continue that chain of giving and just helping each other. And, people don't understand the money managing behind it. And, it's like, look, it's like, I run a foundation. I work every day, but I'm like 10 grand a year. That's what I get to live on. That's what I get to do. And it's like, that's it. And I manage quite a large sum of funds, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, it goes out and it goes to the individuals that need it the most. And to the organizations that have the ability to make that change. And it takes time to like understand what those organizations are, because there's a lot of bad ones and a lot of people that just all goes to administration, and you have 80% administration fees and 20% community fees, and then that's cut into 10 or 5%. Right. And I'm very I do my due diligence when I look at organizations of where their assets go. How many people are they affecting a year? How many people do they affect a month? How many residual kids are there that they're growing with? What is their expiration date when it comes to who they affect? Are they going to age out? Are they going to be able to carry into other organizations? There's a lot of business behind that. And you have to go through the trial and error and get taken, lose the asset for a little bit and go, I know what you look like now.
Right. Yeah. When I opened Dreamshine, I intentionally didn't open it up as a nonprofit. I created it as a S corporation. I knew nothing about business, by the way, 14 years ago. The words I'm using right now, I wouldn't even know what they meant. And the reason why was I knew that if I had to depend on, and there's this amazing other nonprofits out there, but I had such a different vision for where we were going. And I was already working with so many different bureaucracies that I was like, I'm going to build this up to be like its own sustainable business. And I'm going to be able to put it all back into it and have the product obviously is our individuals with developmental disabilities and be able to serve them and have the best team. And there's been a lot of trial and error with that too. But that's been something that's been kind of different with me is people would think like, oh, well, if it's nonprofit, you must just be in it just for the money. And it's like, well, no, you can be nonprofit and it's still the same. It's just a different like tax status. I'm like, actually, I'm probably leaving a lot of money on the table by not, working and getting donations and stuff, but it's allowed me to grow it the way I want to,
Is nonprofit is called nonprofit for a reason. And if you're doing the nonprofit right, you'll make money in other avenues, but when it comes to the nonprofit itself, it's only giving, it's only impacting, and it's only going to change the face of lives. And that's how you know when you're doing it right and you're making the impact. It's like very little for you, but the rewards for everyone around you are reigning.
Right. You can't fake those results.
No.
People can for a while, but when you go there and really see what's going on. So, yeah,
We're in a moment when that authenticity is going to be the bellwether for everything. I mean, I think we've come to a moment where we've gone through so many crazy elements in our culture at this point from every side, no matter what your what stripes you have on.
Totally.
We need truth and authenticity, whatever your perspective. And that's, especially true in the kind of work that RJ does.
Yeah. Like the focus on human, I'm for the human race. I'm for human beings. And when people get super, like with me working with different developmental disabilities, they'll be like, oh, we don't use that word this month. And I'm like, well, guess what? I actually call this person by their name. I get to know them as a human being. I refer to her as Aaron. I don't refer to her as I don't always get into all that. And I have a realistic relationship. And that's the way I feel about with anything, it's getting to know each other as actual human beings.
I think we're in the era where we all need to be global humans because everything impacts everything else. We've got over 8 billion people on the planet. It's like the butterfly effect. Something over here, a tiny little thing can affect everything over here. And we have to get into the understanding that interdependencies are absolutely real, no matter what. The thing with COVID, we can't let India get taken down by COVID because that will eventually take us down because that's the way viruses work. They don't respect national borders or different cultures. They just go everywhere. So we have to realize we have to activate the genius of the group mind of global humans. A very famous man, Joseph Campbell, who was, one of the great mythology scholars of all time, who I got a chance to meet actually before his death. I asked him, Joseph, Mr. Campbell, and he said, call me Joe, because you're the sweet guy. And he said, what's the mythology I need to follow in my life as a storyteller? I had done nothing at this point. I was just a 20-year-old kid. And he says, you've got to follow the mythology of the global human. If we don't, cockroaches are next. That was from Joseph Campbell. So I was like, okay. And let's take with me to this moment. We have to be truly global in our thinking and be just humans together. Matter of fact, with all my work with virtual reality, that's what I want to happen, is actually have people understand those interdependencies and we can just experience each other with the empathy of something that connects us in an immersive media experience that allows us just to be global humans together for health, for wellness, for everything that can come positively out of human interaction with technology. Not necessarily the reptilian brainstem theater we've been seeing these days, so we have to activate the better angels of our nature with technology.
Right. Because honestly, that's what my wife's originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa. Wow. And we spend a lot of time there too. It's actually a beautiful place, but you see it's by the water. Yeah. But you see such a differentiation. And it's been really cool personally getting to know her and her family. Her mom's staying with us right now. Actually, we brought her back here to get vaccinated. But it's as you get to know people, and that's something that I've loved, that has been a cool thing about social media, is some people that haven't been able to connect or have been under kind of some of these like dictator governments that weren't able to do stuff are able to have even different job opportunities now. And sometimes it depends who's blocking what. I know that India is blocking cryptocurrency. That could be a whole other show. I don't know enough about that, but it does start to open up those doors for people to connect and get to know each other on that human global level.
Yes.
But unfortunately, you know, like a lot of the little bits we see on social media or the news are like the fear and the drama or that only depicts like 1% of humanity. And it makes people think that this is the way 100% of this group is, you know, whether you're this political group or that, or that. And these real life conversations like we're having right now is a cool thing. And we're, you know, we could have guests pop in from Sierra Leone and you can have those conversations. Yeah. And I can't even imagine bringing in what you're talking about with it's, I don't even know the word. I would say VR. It's like VX, but yeah.
Yeah. The VR, the virtual experience. Go ahead,
RJ.
Well, this is the most amazing part. You know, it's like we used to have a centralized news network where you saw one view, you saw one ideas, and we still have that to a degree where you're getting one side of the coin. But now we have through media, through Snapchat, you can go and hit hotspots and see and be there on the ground and go into areas and go. One of my favorite things to do is go into maps and look at the live feed on what's happening instantly live in the moment through real people. You used to not be able to have that. And sadly, you're still only seeing 1% of society in the media. But if you're able to harness the power of these smartphones and harness the power of our technology and go out on a limb and do your own research and go into the live feeds, go into the videos and the CCTVs and see what's happening instantly, you can go and go, okay, this is the real world, not what you see on the TV, but in reality, this is what's happening. And that's so special. But it's dangerous because people
it's both, right?
Lose themselves in an augmented reality. And we have to be able to protect our citizens and protect our minds from the chaos of so much, you know, as anyone that's worked in this industry or been out and even in Africa and seen people in ways that most people haven't seen. Right. And when you're able to see real humans living real lives, living and dying, you know, that's something that a lot of people the majority does not understand. And it's changing, but we have to protect that knowledge and utilize it properly.
Exactly right. I mean, it's such an important time, just like RJ said, of taking responsibility for what these new technologies and connectivity can actually create. And there's a lot of negative things that they can create. Absolutely. Right. But so we have to focus on what are the positive uses, what are the humanist uses, what are the things that actually connect us as global humans, you know, and that ethical framework is something we need to continue to shape and discuss constantly, because it's not going to come from one person. Right. It's going to come from, again, activating the genius of the group mind, which it does exist if we're able to activate it. And the technology, you know, people say, oh, it's artificial, like artificial intelligence. There's nothing artificial about it. Right. It's augmented intelligence. It's coming from us, you know, so, you know, it hasn't dropped from outer space from some artificial, you know, satellite somewhere. So, you know, it's something that we have to take responsibility for. And in this moment we're in right now, this is an inflection point where that is more true than ever before.
Yeah, 100%. And I just realized the time too. Yes. So I know, I think we had an hour. I could be going on for hours and hours too. I love having that's what it's about is these great conversations with people of all different levels. And that was why I started this podcast. I was like, I want to just have people come on from everywhere and be able to share their stories and relate and connect. And I've had other directors and actors on that are like, oh, that was not like any other interview I've done. I don't know if they were like putting me down or if that was but no, in some ways they're like, oh, we actually had a conversation. And
yeah, Mark, it's refreshing. I can tell you, I'm sure it was refreshing.
And that we've stayed in touch too. And it was just kind of cool. They were like, oh, you were listening to what I was saying, and then like followed up, and we went back and forth. And I'm like, oh, I thought that's just the way a conversation worked. But how is that? And like, as we're getting closer to ending too, what have you noticed, like, especially RJ, like a big difference in when you're going out back before in Breaking Bad, the way there wasn't all the social media and podcasts, and you're doing a premiere for that, you know, and you're on some like great things like Conan and stuff, and it's snippets and it's edited. It would be amazing. But like, how has that been different than some of the other interviews? How would you like compare those to how you're doing that now?
I mean, the assets to do interviews before what we have now, media, I mean, I think they're cheaper now.
Yeah.
I think it's much cheaper, and everyone does it. So you have a lot of new entities coming to the face of this. So a lot more of a learning curve than it used to be.
Yes.
But you know, so much more media. What used to be two things are now 30 things. One of the things I'm so sick of is like when I'm doing Zooms and stuff, they go, oh, and like I'm in the middle of something, they're like, oh, where's your camera? I'm like, like it's like now it's this weird life where it's like I used to just be able to have a phone call. Now they want to see your face, and it's kind of it's you're obligated to it. I find it's more invasive now than ever, and I think that's just our society. No,
we have to figure out boundaries. Yeah, before COVID, I would have people come here I did some on Zoom, but I had people come here in person just because when we're sitting down together, it brings up a whole other level. And there's times where I work with people too that I've had on, they've been in other countries and like, we're just available for audio. I'm like, that's cool. We'll make it happen. You know?
Yeah.
Just sometimes with with having the video and everything too, we're able to use a lot of that in cool ways. But when people are like entitled and expecting every second that, you know, it's like you should immediately have a studio and perfect lighting with you everywhere you are and all that. It's
like, it's crazy. I mean, I'm older than both of you guys. I mean, used to be these press junkets where you had to go to like a hotel, you know, to like talk to the radio people. It was totally different than it is now. That's for sure. Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta go. We have another press, but hey Mark, a pleasure, man. Yo Brett, we got on air. We're live, so we gotta go. But Mark,
go man.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Take it easy.
All right.
No, that was cool. No, yeah, we went over. That was awesome though. Everyone's going to appreciate this. I loved having these conversations, and Brett, let's definitely touch base. I want to do a whole other episode with you.
Let's do one about all this virtual reality stuff, man, because it's huge right now. It's cranking. And like I said, this press release just went out 2 days ago, or about 3 days ago, about this deal we just did to create this med tech capsule for healing with VR, which is a very unique thing, you know, right now. And so it's a good time to, obviously the things you're involved with and all of that connect into all of these things. So it'd be great to talk about that.
Yeah. I'm very fascinated by all of it. So we'll follow up, everyone, and everyone listening. As we're recording this, it's April 30th. Triumph is officially in theaters.
Go see Triumph in the movie theater on the big screen, because every director wants you to see it on the big screen. It's so much more of an emotional experience. And RJ Mitte is brilliant in this film. And if you get out of it without crying, I would be surprised.
Oh, there's so many powerful moments. The whole cast is amazing.
Yeah, no, really incredible cast. Absolutely incredible cast.
Yeah, check it out, everyone. And like you said, get back in the theater. I missed that experience. I loved it.
Be safe, socially distance, wear your mask, all those things, because we're not out of this yet.
Right.
But at the same time, you can actually go have a group experience now. So it's time to get back to that.
Yeah. And we
can
need
all
that.
triumph together. As Michael Coffey, the writer of this, he always saying, every email ends with, we will triumph together. So
hey, that's a perfect way to end the show, everyone. Listen, we'll all triumph together and keep elevating beyond. Thank you so much.
Take care.